Hi, I'm Bobby Peer with TAPinto, and I'm here with Mayor Al Morgan for our monthly chat.
Yes, we are.
I look forward to talking again. And you know what? You are a lifelong resident of New Providence.
Yes, I am.
I've seen a lot change since I've been here since
Oh,
1997.
believe me, you have no idea.
Exactly, exactly. So I would love, just from your perspective of being a lifelong resident and also being a leader for so many years, what have you seen change? What do you think about when you think of your childhood to today?
I just look at a lot of different things, especially the growth, the building that's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand when I was born in '54, so I don't remember the early years, but I remember enough growing up in the center of town, um, the traffic light, where the billboard is now, the
Okay.
electronic sign.
Yep.
That used to be Bear's Hardware Store
Oh, wow. Okay.
there, and diagonally across used to be Center Stationers. In
Okay.
fact, people like myself that have been here a long time still call Center Stationers the corner store. So
Got
if
it.
I say to one of my classmates, yeah, I went to the corner store, they'll know exactly where I was.
And that was the big fire that everyone refers to when they think of
No, they actually
that
not.
wasn't.
No, you're thinking of like Wayne's Bakery over
Oh,
there.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and but Center Stationers was moved to the shopping center.
Okay. Near
Okay,
Duncan? Is that
yeah,
okay? Got
back
it.
then it was called McNamara Shopping Center,
Oh, wow.
and where Adams is
Yeah.
used to be New Providence Garage, which Gelomini owns now in the back.
Okay.
Okay, next to that, the house, the house
Yes.
where Flip Consignment
Yes.
and the photography
Positive
store,
image.
that was Town Deli,
Oh my
which is
God.
now
Near the
uh,
train
by the
station.
train station in New Providence.
So these businesses still
Yeah,
exist. They just moved.
a lot of them just moved.
That's
And next to
interesting.
that, between the corner store and the town deli, was a house, and the recreation commission was in that house.
Wow.
So, and then they moved over by the community pool, and then when the borough hall was renovated, they were moved into here.
Okay.
Uh, Borough Hall was given to the borough by the Board of Education, sold for $1.
Okay.
So they had to reconfigure the school. So part of it was knocked down. The front piece, um, they housed like the first, second, third, fourth grade.
Wow.
Where we're sitting here right now
Yeah.
was my fifth grade classroom.
Okay. Well, and that's why there's such a great gym here
Right.
with the stage. So
Mm-hmm.
this was a school at
Sure.
one point.
And where the police station is, that used to be the main office, and a hallway down. The hallway's still there, and where the offices are, Detective Bureau and all that, there were 2 kindergarten classes.
Wow. And
So,
I mean, I know how things are today. People don't like change. So back
right.
then, it sounds like there was so much change at one point with the changing of the school, selling the building, and so forth. How have you seen like the acceptance of the evolution of New Providence?
Well, I think it was done gradually.
Okay.
It wasn't one big hit like it is now,
Yeah.
where things are forced into you. Our forefathers and for women that were on council and on the planning boards, they kept everything separated. So
And it was done
it
because
was
of logic.
right,
It made
exactly.
sense.
I'm looking now at where I grew up on Edgewood Avenue.
Okay.
I mean, they were small capes on slabs. Now they're going for over $1 million, and even some closer to two. So you're sitting there going, "Whoa!" But it's just amazing. I mean, just changes uh, where the diner is used to be a gas station.
Okay.
That was Ernie Fisher's Sunoco station, and that moved over where the corner store was, and then they brought in the diner.
Wow.
And the diner was probably the first real like restaurant in
Okay.
town. I remember when it first opened, there were lines on Springfield Avenue going around to the Summit Elizabeth Bank there
To get
to
into.
get in.
I
It
mean,
was amazing,
wow.
and but like the Lincoln Field over here, that was woods when I was a kid,
Wow.
and I used to walk through the woods. It was a stone path, and then they made it into a ball field, and there was so many changes. The Acme used to be up where Blockbuster was,
Okay.
right? And it used to go all the way, not all the way to the front. There was a parking lot in front, and the back of the shopping center where the newer places are now.
Yes.
There was like chicken coops and stuff back there.
Wow.
So I mean, it was wild.
And there were a lot more like greenhouses. Obviously,
Oh,
that was a big deal back when that
Central
was.
Avenue
Yeah.
was all like greenhouses after the where the A&P is, but the
Okay.
farmers market all in
Right.
there, Jersey Joe's, that was there as far as I can remember, but all along down the street was all greenhouses, Coddington's greenhouses,
Okay.
and Mizuko's, and it went all along Floral Avenue. Okay, on the one side, Mizuko's had greenhouses where Murray Hill Manor is.
Okay.
The last greenhouses were just knocked down on High Street, the
Yeah.
May greenhouses. So, but Coddington's roses were known throughout the world.
Wow.
So it was pretty amazing. You had a feed store where Davies and Associates is back on
Okay.
Floral,
Yes.
and there'd be if you look, there's two railroad tracks there, and there'd be coal.
Well,
The coal chutes are even
that
there.
area does have a little bit of a historic
Oh,
feel
a
to
lot.
it.
You'd be
Yeah.
surprised what was there. But you look at look where you have the all day parking there,
Yes.
where you have to pay.
Yes.
Those are coal. They're coal chutes in there.
Wow.
So it was truly amazing how this town has changed so much.
I know. And now, I mean, everything really has turned very upscale.
Oh,
And everyone likes to come to New Providence because you do have a lot to offer for the kids.
right.
The kids can go to Starbucks. They can
Smash
Smash
Burger.
Burger.
Yeah, they go that diner. I mean, if you go over to like Jersey Joe's
Mm-hmm.
at lunchtime, all you see is GL jackets and Pioneer jackets, and they all go there for lunch. And it's amazing. I mean, this town was a baby boomer town.
Mm-hmm.
Like my parents and went to Summit High School, right? And you couldn't afford a house in Summit or Milburn
Right.
So well, everybody that got out of World War II, they got a job and they came. And a lot of my classmates, their parents settled in Yale's Drive,
Okay.
okay, and then bought a house in New Providence. I would say a third of my classmates, their parents all knew each other from Summit High School, and so
And a lot of people stay,
a lot of
or at least in the
right.
peripheral towns.
Yeah, there's still a lot of us that are still here.
Which is nice.
And the funny part, and I always tell this story, and I was guilty as the rest of them. you graduate high school and you're saying, I can't wait to get out of this podunk town. There's nothing to do, right? Well, there was plenty to do. We just didn't appreciate it. This was a great place to grow up,
Yeah.
still is. But you'd see people that didn't move back here. So I should have moved back when I could.
Well, it's so
This and
family
that.
oriented,
Yeah.
and everything you offer, like through the rec or the town pool, is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's almost country club feel.
We're just so fortunate to have good people working for the borough
Mm-hmm.
because they're the ones who make everything operate, and they're truly amazing.
They
And
care.
they really do. If you see a lot of our police officers and employees, they're from town.
Mm-hmm.
They have a vested interest in the town.
Awesome.
And
well, so we'll fast forward
sure.
to now.
Oh.
And there's still a lot going on, and we won't make this video go on and on and on. But I do think people would like to get a little update. I mean, the Passaic Bridge is still being worked on, so I'd love an update on the status of that. And we have summer right around the corner. We'll have graduation in a few weeks, but
Yeah.
from there, it's going to roll right into the 4th of July, which I know New Providence historically has had the July 3rd fireworks.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that everything is still going on, and we'll just get a little update.
Everything's going great. The bridge, the county's telling us it'll be open up in the fall.
Okay.
They didn't give me a specific date, and I don't like getting specific dates because they always get moved. But you know, I went down there today. They're working. They're waiting for the concrete. I guess they're like joists that go across. Well, they had to be cast, and it takes 6 weeks for them to cure.
Okay.
So I think they're waiting for that right now. I know they had to do some work on the abutments, and I think they had to do that before they put the order in for the concrete, because that has to be exact, that measurement.
Yep.
So, but they're moving right along. So,
well, and the detours haven't caused too much
no,
trouble,
the business community is hurting a little, they
Okay.
said. I mean, it's not that far out of the way each way, but I know it's an inconvenience.
Yeah, no one likes to,
but,
especially if you're a business person.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot that goes on in June, in July.
Yep.
The 14th.
Oh, right.
They're doing Unity Day on Saturday.
This Saturday.
Well, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
that's in the afternoon.
That's in the afternoon. And you know, I like that this is back at the high school where it belongs. Mm-hmm. And this is done by the diversity committee. But, you know, it's really the students that are running it. And they've been doing it for years. And it's just a great idea. It gets a lot of
participation.
It does.
Around 20 different organizations.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And being at the high school, I think it's the best thing that could happen. So and
then Sunday is the Sharing Networks 5K.
Yeah, that's
going through town.
Yep. And that's always a big thing. Sometimes they get like 10,000 people, they said. There was
at least
one year
participating. And
yeah.
I know the pandemic caused it to go virtual, and some people still run virtual, but it's a huge turnout.
Right. It's just they're a great organization and a terrific community partner.
Yes.
You ask them for anything, they're the first ones there. They're just terrific people.
Nice.
Then
got graduation.
I think graduation. On the 14th is
right.
Flag Day.
Yes.
And the American Legion does a flag retirement ceremony where they burn the flags, and it's very it's a nice ceremony, very heartwarming, and you know, only a few organizations are allowed to retire flags.
Okay.
And the American Legion is one of them.
Okay.
So this has been a tradition for, I'd say, since 98, 99.
Okay.
And
And if
it's
people have flags they would like to, I guess, deposit to.
deposit, you can do it if they have a mailbox.
Okay.
You just throw it in the mailbox.
Okay.
And
Before the
they
14th.
they 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 get like 2,500 flags.
Wow.
So it's big. And that's really nice, especially for young people. Kids. It's good to see what the flag stands for.
Mm-hmm.
Each fold of the flag has a meaning to it. It's just such a solemn ceremony.
I was going
That
to say
means so
to
much.
keep the ceremony alive
Right.
is very nice.
And the ceremony is only like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot, but it gives you time to just look and pause and say how grateful you are that you live in this country.
Brings patriotism.
It does. It's really, really a great ceremony.
Nice.
Then I think the Historical Society has their craft fair in the morning, and it's always something.
There's always something. So that's awesome. I mean, that brings the small town
right
into.
In fact,
Providence.
Everybody's asking me now about the fireworks.
Okay.
Ours is always on July 3rd. And, we used to have it on the 4th, like everyone else. Well, the problem is people would be going to Summit to theirs, they'd be going this one, that one. They said, this is crazy. We want it for New Providence. So called up Gordon State Fireworks. Well, if we do it on the 3rd, what's the deal? Well, you get a 15% break.
Okay.
So God rest his soul, Jimmy Kuko says, we can save 15%. I said, no, we're going to give 15% more fireworks.
Okay.
So that worked out better. But it's really been
so you're going to keep that tradition.
Keep the tradition on the 3rd.
You have the South Street closes for
at 6:30. It's going to be closing at 6:30. South Street. They're going to have a DJ.
Okay.
There's going to be chalk drawing.
It's a lot
some
of
things
fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's just a fun night.
Yep.
Next year should be fun. 250th anniversary of the country. So
wow.
Hopefully we can do something special.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Sure. I know you had a question about schools.
Oh, I did. I was talking to you before we were recording, and I live in Berkeley Heights.
Yep.
Obviously, I do a lot in both towns. And I always wondered, why are we not a combined school district? And I know you were on the board years ago.
When we looked at it, it was back in the early 90s.
Okay.
We were only graduating like 90 kids out of the high school at the time.
Okay.
I mean, when I went to high school there, my class was 282, and I wasn't even the biggest class. So, things changed. So instead there was talk about taking in another school district and have them come here. That wasn't really feasible. So there was mention about merging New Providence and Berkeley Heights, where the high school would be middle school, and then GL would be the high school. But GL was still in the region with Union County back then. And the determining factor really was we would have to start busing. We don't bus here.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge, huge expense. So,
and it's always been a topic in Berkeley Heights, and it came to head a few years ago.
Yeah,
it's a difficult thing, but we're similar type towns, and
but we were all one town at one time.
Yeah, so you just never know where the future is going. But right now,
but Steve Vidal and Ira Krause did a study on live births.
Okay.
And we saw that 20 years, 20 years, we're going to need that room. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did.
Okay.
So,
I know when they combine the athletes, they have a powerhouse. Like
oh
that
yeah, look
hockey
at the hockey
team.
team.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And they were growing up together playing lacrosse at one time.
Yep.
And some of the soccer
Some of
players
the
play
football
together.
too.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
football.
So,
So there's a lot of commonality. And I always wondered why it wasn't
yeah, that's why.
combined. Okay.
You know.
Well, thank you for that insight. I love
Sure.
all this history. And going forward, I look forward to possibly meeting some of the department heads, and
Yeah,
we'll bring them in at some point.
we'll have to do it a different day
Okay.
because they, do that during work time. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's a very good idea. I did it years and years ago with the mayor's forum at the high school, and people were interested because, like if you're going for an addition,
Right.
what do I have to do? What are the processes? So Keith Lynch could absolutely go through it step by step,
That would be
and
great.
things with the police department
Yeah.
and rec and
Well,
DPW.
people don't think about it till they need it. And
Recycling's another one. People always have questions about the recycling, and you know, yeah, I think that's a good idea, and we'll work
awesome.
on that.
Good. Well, thank you, Al,
Oh, thank you, Bobby. It's always a pleasure.
and have a great weekend.
Hey, I always do.
Yeah.
You too.
Thank you.